light of the current disputes between mosques being built over temples during medieval times in India, to get a better understanding of what our representatives had thought when they had debated on the Places of Worship Bill in 1991. We take a look at the records of the parliamentary proceedings that took place, and secondly, we look into colonial times in Africa to get some historical context on injustices committed by one group on another. Ibrahim Suleiman spoke about the country's secular nature and that the government had to make its intention absolutely clear about never to be controlled by any group and always uphold the secular character of the country. How far back are we going to go to interpret who is the rightful owners? Till before the Mughals or before the Afghan attackers? But August 15, 1947 was chosen as the cutoff date, as Malini Bhattacharya mentions that on that date we emerged as a democratic and united nation and decided to put all of those barbarism behind once and for all. K.P. Unnikrishnan gave an excellent explanation to what secularism is. It is not any concession or special consideration that we make to the minorities. It is more than that. It is the right minorities have in this nation, and that feeling is supposed to have been instinctively present in India since centuries. Owing to several mentions of discriminatory behavior against the Shudras, Rajnath Shastri Sonkar asked what is the need to construct a temple to safeguard Hinduism when such words are present in our scriptures. Sudhir Sawant explained Ram Rajya as being the rule of law and that it is providing food and shelter and love to everyone. Asserting that Muslims came into this country, a country of the Hindus where they were accepted generously, Ashok Anand Rao asks if Muslims acknowledge themselves as Indians, why do they want to preserve the identity of these foreign invaders who destroyed temples in this country? Suresh Chandra Dixit referred to Chapter 15 of the IPC, which was on offences relating to damaging of places of worship, and asked that if such a provision was already there, what was the need of such a bill? Sudhir Sawant said that the bill aims to set all future disagreements regarding religious places to rest, and Article 25, the fundamental right to religion, does not face any problems. There were also a few quotations and references to the Saint Tulsidas and to the Bhagavad Gita as well. Muhammad Yunus Salim narrated the story of how the mosque came to be built beside the Kashi Vishwanath temple during Aurangzeb's time, from the book Feathers and Stones by Dr. Pattabhi Sitaramaya. According to the story, Aurangzeb was supposed to have destroyed the temple because he found the priests there corrupt and thieving. And as if foreshadowing the problem of today, many legislatures suggested that the Krishna Janmabhoomi and Kashi Vishwanath temple also be kept out of the bill like the Ayodhya dispute. Ram Sundar Das echoed something that many would perhaps agree with, that if the rights written in the constitution are not actually given to the people, they would lose faith in the constitution. History has plenty of examples of one group imposing domination over another, but the colonial times are recent history and thus have a lot of evidence and study on what it implies for countries today. Impact of European activities in the African continent can be traced today in several ways, and one of the foremost being the vibrant community of people of African origin in the United States. Researchers have asserted that one of the impacts of colonialism is that it leaves behind the paths of the choices that were made, and the country continues on these paths even after it becomes independent. These are the top 5 exported commodities from sub-Saharan Africa between 1820s and the 1920s. In 1913, cocoa emerged at the second place, and by 1929, cocoa was the most exported commodity from sub-Saharan Africa. Until today, cocoa is the most exported agricultural product from Africa. But the cocoa from Africa came with its problems for the people of Africa. Like an investigation in 1905 found a large number of people were forcibly taken away from their homes permanently to work in cocoa farms, and such problems are existent even today. A report by Anti-Slavery International in 2004 stated that using children as labor was common in family cocoa farms along with forced labor. Moreover, forested land was cleared heavily to increase production and expand the area under cultivation during colonial times, and this pattern continues even today. The graph on the left shows the growth in value of imports and exports for Africa, and the gap has only grown over the years, with imports growing much faster than exports. From the graph on the right, Africa supplies 73% of the world's cocoa beans, but only 20% of the ground cocoa. This is a huge loss in the value that could have been gained from exports, as ground cocoa is worth much more. This trend of low productivity can be seen in almost all of Africa's agriculture. The blue represents African average yields, and the green represents the yield on average of the top 10 producers of that crop. And these are the top agricultural imports of Africa, with cereals, the basic staple food and source of nutrition, being the most imported, and that to 96% from outside African nations. Africa relies on being a major exporter of natural resources like metals, but other than that, efficient earning channels from exports are limited. Africa, with its high dependence on agricultural sector, will face the adverse effects of climate change, and increasingly degraded farmlands are unable to support large herds of livestock anymore. Most of Africa was divided up by the European powers among themselves, with little concern of what groups were being included in which country, and with little knowledge of any geographical features. On languages, different countries dealt with it in different ways. In Mali, French was removed as the official language in 2023 and was replaced by regional languages. In Nigeria, linguistically diverse communities are held together by the English language. In Burkina Faso, French continues as the official language. Other than trade, colonial human capital investments can also determine the inequality that will continue to remain between nations or districts. These are measures of development in 1995 of districts in French West Africa. The high standard deviation implies that there is significant inequality among districts. This map shows the medical staff in each district in the early 20th century. A lighter color means fewer medical staff, which means lesser investment. Almost all districts in Burkina Faso received poor investment and lesser medical staff, shown by the light color. Today, Burkina Faso is one of the countries with the poorest healthcare, requiring the highest amount of aid, and is far from reaching even the basic health needs of its people, as this UNICEF report shows. Similar is the case with education. On the left is the number of teachers per 100,000 people in the 1920s, Darker color means more teachers. On the right is the number of children aged between 7 and 12 going to school. In 1995, observe Senegal. With some exceptions, the lighter colored district on the left remain lighter than the rest even after a gap of nearly 80 years.